Yeah, and welcome to papastache 102. So I was watching some freaking metal. I was gonna teach some metal songs. If you guys want some metal songs, in the comment section below, leave your suggestions. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, I was watching some metal lessons. A la Nuno Betancourt, like one of my favorite guitar players ever. If you don't know who he is, do yourself a favor and frustrate yourself by watching a guy play licks we'll never be able to do. Yeah, but like Warren DeMartini, Brat, George Lynch, all these guys are just wicked blues-based guitar players. There's classical thrown in there, but they just do these amazing things. The pentatonic scale, they make it just sound so different. So, in that kind of style, it got me inspired. I'm going to teach you the riff I just played that's just kind of a la all those guys, and it's just extending your fingers right outside of those positions we're all familiar with that we know and love. Now, if you need help with melodic soloing, down below there's going to be a link in the description area. That video is not on YouTube, and it's all about how to take licks like this, or just typical blues licks, and make them melodic. So you can add these for flavor and flash, but then go right back to melody when you're done. So check that video out. Again, it is not on YouTube. As for this one, let's zoom in for a closer look, break it down. All right, so like I said, I was checking out some of my peeps. Betancourt, freaking love that guy, and you guys should really check him out, and you ladies too. My freaking wife thinks he's hot. So not only may you, if you're a lady out there, respect the playing, but maybe his leather pants too. I don't know, whatever. But the playing was freaking awesome, and he and George Lynch and Warren DeMartini and Eddie Van Halen, all these guys, they did amazing things with the typical blues-based playing. They extended the reach of some of those positions we know and love, like E minor, to be a little bit farther out. Now, if you don't know where that stuff comes from, you might just think of it as a lick or, a shape or whatever, a run. But if you start to break it down and you realize within these scale shapes are different chords, right? Like we've been talking about in the last series of lessons, you can start to see, oh, right, when I break out to here, I could be going from E minor pentatonic and jumping in and grabbing that major third of the E chord right here. So then I combine that maybe with E minor position 2, and I have this cool lick. That right there is an awesome run. You're using an E major chord shape with E minor pentatonic. And you get this awesome, lick. Now, when you combine that with some of the typical blues runs that we may have learned from over the years, you start to be able to access these really awesome kind of extended pentatonic runs, okay? So check this out. So think about E minor pentatonic, and then our two E major chord inversions that are right here. So we have E major right here, and we have E major right here. The E shape and the D shape. So when I go, what I'm doing is I'm combining this shape here, E major pentatonic position 2, which is right inside of position 1, and E minor position 1, because a lot of the chords are 5 chords in hard rock. So you can play both major and minor scales, and you can get away with murder. It's awesome, right? So when I do this, it's 16, 17, 16, 12, all on the E. And then I'm going to jump up to position 2 of E major pentatonic, which is the 14th fret. And then go to 15, which is E minor, position 1, on the E, back to B14, back into E minor pentatonic, position 1, with the E note. So we got. And then what I'm going to do is do a more traditional blues lick. So I hammer from 12 to 15, and then I jump up, catch the high E, and then I bend up this note, which gets us back into this shape. either the E major chord or the E minor. It doesn't matter. They both share this note right here. So we got. Now when I come back, I'm going to utilize both the major and minor scale. So we got 12 on the E, pull off 15 to 12 on the B. Get the blues note, G15, come back to B12. Okay, so we got. Now I'm going to go blues note, slide, and pull off to 12 on the G string. And then 14 twice. And now I'm going to hammer from 12th fret to the 13th fret, so the minor third to the major third. And then jump up and catch the E note. So. So we got. Or you can add a little more, a little more love on the. Right there. Those guys have freaking just milked those bends and that vibrato. And that's another thing. Study the 80s guys, well, and even the 70s. Their vibrato is killer, and that adds so much to playing. So even if it's little tiny. Vibrato is huge. So in this style of playing, you can work with mixing major and minor, seeing the chord shapes. That's super important. I can't emphasize that enough, because out of a lot of those players, the melodic runs were killer, and you've got to know where your chord shapes are to hit those cool notes and the chord progression. And then, right, just have fun. Just add some some angst and some anger, and freaking shake those notes, and you'll come up with these great 80s hard rock style pentatonic licks. If you guys want some 80s songs, put them in the description box below, and I'll start hitting some good old hard rock. I love that genre, so I can teach that stuff till the cows come home. Or the metal comes home, hopefully, sooner or later, right? All right, catch you next time.